Everyone hates the cockroach. There is no other animal on the planet that provokes such a unanimous reaction. You see it cross the kitchen floor at night and your skin crawls. You jump, look for something to squash it with, and even if you kill it, you feel a chill that takes a while to fade. There are no children's stories about cockroaches, no logos, no one who makes a wish when one lands on their hand. It is, without question, the most hated animal by human beings. But there is a detail that almost nobody knows. That creature that disgusts you at an instinctual level, that thing you associate with filth and disease, is one of the most perfect survival machines that evolution has produced. It survived the 5 great mass extinctions. It saw dinosaurs appear and disappear without flinching. And if a catastrophe were to fall tomorrow that wiped out most life on Earth, the most likely outcome is that the cockroach would still be there, strolling among the rubble. Today we are going to see who the cockroach really is, why it is practically indestructible, how it reproduces at a frightening speed, and, most surprisingly of all, what it is for. Because yes, this animal that you only want to see dead performs a job on the planet upon which things you can't even imagine depend. Stay until the end, because there is a fact that will probably change the way you look at it. Let's start at the beginning, because the cockroach is much older than you think. Its ancestors were already scurrying across the forest floor more than 300 million years ago in the Carboniferous period. To give you an idea, dinosaurs didn't appear until about 230 million years ago. In other words, when the first dinosaur set foot on Earth, the cockroach had already been perfecting its model for tens of millions of years. They already flew, they already hid, they already ate everything. While the great reptiles were born, dominated the world, and became extinct under the weight of a catastrophe, the cockroach kept doing its thing, barely noticing anything. Today, about 4,600 species of cockroaches are known, distributed across almost the entire planet. And here comes the first surprise, because the vast majority have nothing to do with us. Of all these species, barely about 30 live associated with human beings. The rest, thousands of them, live in jungles, in rotten logs, under leaves in caves, far from any house. There are cockroaches that only eat dead wood, others that burrow, and even some that take care of their young as if they were little birds. When you think of a cockroach, you think of one thing, that brown bug that runs through the kitchen, but that is just one among thousands and one of the few that decided to move into our house. And watch out for the sizes, because the image you have of the cockroach falls short. The largest one that exists lives in the jungles of Central and South America and can exceed 7 or 8 centimeters in body length, with an even larger wingspan. There is another one in Australia that lives underground, has no wings, digs burrows, and can weigh more than 30 grams. That is no longer something you want to squash with a slipper. That is something you want to leave the room for directly. But let's focus on the question that really matters. Why is it so difficult to kill? Why, no matter what we do, does the cockroach always survive? The answer lies in its body, which is a true catalog of engineering solutions refined over hundreds of millions of years. Let's start with the most well-known, that legend that the cockroach can withstand radiation. It is true, although with nuances. A cockroach can withstand radiation doses between 6 and 15 times higher than those that would kill a human being. Why? Because its cells divide much more slowly than ours, and radiation does more damage precisely when a cell is dividing. That doesn't make it immortal in a nuclear explosion, let's not exaggerate, but it does mean that, in a world ravaged by radiation, the cockroach would have a much better chance of continuing on than we would. Let's continue with something even more mind-blowing. The cockroach can live without a head, and not for a few seconds, no. It can survive up to a week without its head. It sounds like a horror movie, but it has a perfectly logical explanation. The cockroach does not breathe through its mouth or nose. It breathes through small openings distributed throughout its body. And its nervous system is not centralized in the brain like ours, but distributed in small groups of nerves throughout the body, which can control basic functions on their own. A decapitated cockroach continues to move, react to touch, and even stand up. In the end, it dies, yes, but of thirst, because without a mouth it cannot drink. Dehydration kills it, not the lack of a head. When I first read this, I had to stop for a moment and process it. And why do you never manage to squash it in time? That's not luck either. The cockroach has 2 small appendages on the back of its body called cerci, covered in tiny hairs that detect the slightest movement of air. When your hand or foot comes down toward it, those hairs notice the current of air you push ahead before you even touch it. The signal travels directly to the legs, bypassing even the brain, and the cockroach starts running in just a few thousandths of a second. It is literally a miniature anti-aircraft alarm system. By the time your blow lands, it's already gone. And when it runs, it really runs. A cockroach can move at a speed that, relative to its size, would be equivalent to a human running at more than 300 kilometers per hour. It is one of the fastest insects in existence relative to its body. Furthermore, its body is flat and flexible, capable of compressing to a quarter of its height to slip through cracks where you would never think it could fit. And as if that weren't enough, it can hold its breath for long periods, allowing it to survive underwater or withstand environments with low oxygen. Add all this up and you understand why we have been trying to exterminate it for centuries and haven't succeeded. But perhaps the cockroach's greatest weapon is not how tough it is, but how fast it multiplies. And this is where things get really serious. A female cockroach does not lay loose eggs. It packages them in a kind of resistant capsule, a hard little bag called an ootheca, which protects the young like a safe. Inside each of these capsules, there can be between 20 and 40 eggs. And a single female produces several of these capsules throughout her life. Doing the math, a female can have hundreds of descendants. But the real problem is not her, it's her daughters, and the daughters of her daughters. Since each of them does the same thing, the population grows explosively. Scientists calculated that, under ideal conditions, a single pair of cockroaches could give rise, in 1 year, to hundreds of thousands of descendants. And there is a detail that makes it even more unsettling. Some species have developed the ability to reproduce without the need for males. Females can generate offspring on their own, forming entire colonies of copies of themselves. Imagine trying to eradicate an animal that, in the absence of a mate, simply clones itself. That's why, when you see a cockroach in your kitchen, the problem is almost never that cockroach. The problem is everything that is already hidden behind the wall. And here we connect with the dark side, with the reason why we hate it at an instinctual level. Because that disgust you feel is not whimsical. Evolution programmed you to reject the cockroach, and it had good reasons. The domestic cockroach eats absolutely everything: food scraps, grease, paper, glue, hair, soap, and also garbage, decaying matter, and excrement. And from there, without washing, it goes to your surfaces, your plates, your food. Its body and legs drag everything they touch. Scientists have identified dozens of types of bacteria in domestic cockroaches capable of causing diseases, from salmonella to agents of dysentery. The cockroach is not sick. The cockroach is the transport. It is a vehicle with legs that goes from the sewer to your plate without you seeing it. And there's more. For many people, cockroaches are a health problem even if they never touch their food. Their shed skins, their excrement, and the remains of dead cockroaches decompose into tiny particles that float in the home's air. For many people, especially children growing up in heavily infested homes, these particles are one of the main triggers of asthma and respiratory allergies. You don't need to see it for it to be affecting you. A severe infestation is, without exaggeration, a real health problem. So no, your rejection is not irrational. It is an evolutionary inheritance that protects you, just as the disgust we feel toward rot kept us away from diseases for millennia. Your instinct works. But understanding the cockroach is something very different. And this is where the story takes the turn you probably didn't expect. Subscribe if you like the video, because what comes now is the part that connects this hated animal to medicine, to forests, and to things that will be hard for you to believe. Let's start with something that breaks the pattern of everything above. The vast majority of cockroaches, those thousands of species that live far from our homes, are fundamental pieces of ecosystems. Remember I said they eat everything, including dead matter? Well, that means that in your kitchen it's a problem. But in nature, it's an invaluable service. Imagine a tropical forest. The ground is covered with fallen leaves, branches, rotten logs, overripe fruits, and animal remains. Someone has to decompose all that and return its nutrients to the earth so that plants can grow again. Forest cockroaches are one of the great cleaning crews of the planet. They shred the leaf litter, process dead wood, and with their excrement, release nitrogen and other essential nutrients into the soil that plants need. Without that constant recycling, forests would choke on their own garbage, and the soil would become impoverished. Much of the fertility of the world's most exuberant jungles rests, in part, on the silent work of cockroaches. And there is a beautiful fact that few know. Some cockroaches that eat wood cannot digest it alone. They do so thanks to microorganisms that live in their intestine. That relationship is so ancient and so similar to that of termites that, in fact, today scientists consider that termites are nothing more than a group of cockroaches that specialized in social life. Yes, you heard right. Termites, those insects that build entire cities, are, in evolutionary terms, cockroaches that decided to organize themselves. The same lineage that you so despise gave rise to some of the most impressive architects in the animal world. Let's continue, because cockroaches are also food, and a lot of it. They are the basis of the diet of a huge number of animals: birds, lizards, frogs, spiders, scorpions, small mammals. Many species depend on cockroaches as a fundamental food source. In some ecosystems, especially in caves and jungles, they are one of the links that support the entire chain. Remove the cockroaches and a lot of animals that you don't even associate with them start to go hungry. But now comes the part that is truly hard to believe: the cockroach in medicine. For years, scientists wondered how it was possible that an animal that lives among garbage, surrounded by bacteria everywhere, didn't constantly die of infection. The answer turned out to be a treasure. The brain and nervous system of cockroaches produce their own substances with a powerful antibiotic effect, capable of killing bacteria that are increasingly dangerous for us, including some that are already resistant to our medications. Researchers from various universities are studying these compounds in the hope of developing a new generation of antibiotics. The animal we associate with disease could end up giving us weapons to cure it, and it doesn't end there. The way the cockroach moves, that flat body capable of flattening itself to slip through any crack, has fascinated robotics engineers. They have built small robots directly inspired by its anatomy, capable of compressing and advancing through debris and tiny crevices. For what? To send them to look for survivors under collapsed buildings after an earthquake, in places where no human and no dog can enter? The animal you most want to squash could one day be the model for the robot that saves someone trapped under the ruins. And here comes the question that connects everything above. What would happen if all cockroaches suddenly disappeared tomorrow morning? Your first reaction would be joy, I understand, finally free of them. But stay with me, because the matter is not that simple. At first, in cities, we would hardly notice anything good or bad, but in nature, the effect would start quickly and be profound. The first to suffer would be the animals that feed on cockroaches. Many birds, reptiles, and small mammals would suddenly lose a huge part of their food. Some would find substitutes. Others, especially the more specialized ones, would begin to disappear, and behind them would fall the predators that fed on those birds and reptiles. The crack goes up the food chain. Then would come the recycling problem. Without the forest cockroaches shredding leaf litter and dead wood, that organic matter would accumulate and decompose much more slowly. The soil would receive fewer nutrients, plants would grow worse. In tropical jungles, where cockroaches are a key piece of recycling, the effect would be especially severe. And as I said before, part of that nitrogen that cockroaches return to the soil is exactly what trees need. Fewer cockroaches means, in the long run, less healthy forests. It wouldn't be an apocalypse overnight. It would be a slow, silent shift, a crack that widens season after season. What biologists call a cascading effect. You remove a piece that seemed not only dispensable, but directly annoying, and suddenly you discover that it held up much more than you thought. Decades ago, a famous biologist said something that has become famous. If all vertebrates disappeared, the large animals, ecosystems would take tens of thousands of years to recover. But if insects disappeared, most ecosystems would collapse in a few years, and the planet would become unrecognizable. The cockroach is one of those numerous and almost irreplaceable insects. It is that ugly, dirty brick in the building's foundation. Nobody wants to look at it, but remove it and see what collapses. And before finishing, we must talk about something that says a lot about us: the very particular place that the cockroach occupies in human culture. Because while we adorn the ladybug in stories, and the samurai engraved the dragonfly, we have turned the cockroach into the universal symbol of everything we reject. In the language of half the world, calling someone a cockroach is one of the worst insults possible. We have used it in the darkest propaganda in history to dehumanize other people, to convince some that others were plagues that deserve to be exterminated. It is one of the most sinister symbols produced by human beings, and it says more about us than about the insect itself. And at the same time, curiously, the cockroach appears in popular songs, in movies, in children's stories, where it is sometimes the endearing protagonist. There is a famous traditional song that half the world knows and that speaks, precisely, of a cockroach that cannot walk. The same animal we use as the worst of insults is also the one we hum without thinking. Think about it for a moment. The same bug that survives without a head, that withstands radiation, that multiplies by the thousands and drags diseases from the sewer to your plate, is also an essential recycler of forests, a food source for half the animal kingdom, a possible source of future antibiotics, and the model for robots that will one day rescue people under rubble. There are few creatures that bring together so many extremes at once. The most hated and, at the same time, one of the most useful pieces in the puzzle of life. And perhaps that is the true lesson. The cockroach teaches us that disgust, however honest and useful it may be, is not the same as understanding. That behind something you reject with all your instinct may hide one of the most impressive survival stories evolution has written in 300 million years. That the animal you most want to see dead was here long before you, does a job that nobody else wants to do, and, almost certainly, will still be here long after we are gone. Our rejection is an honest reaction. Evolution programmed us to move away from filth and disease, and that has saved our lives countless times. But understanding what the cockroach does and why it is here does not mean stopping chasing it out of your kitchen. That is sensible, and you should keep doing it. It just means stop underestimating it. The next time you see one cross the floor at night, kill it if you have to. But let a small idea remain in some corner of your mind. You are dealing with a survivor that has overcome everything that nature and we ourselves have thrown at it, and that silently and in the shadows sustains a part of the world that you didn't even know existed. Subscribe if you liked the video. Every week we delve into the world of those small beings that almost nobody looks at twice, much less with affection, but that hold everything together. See you in the next one.